Hi, I'm Lexi. I'm the district educator for 2506. I'm also a designer here in Newtown Square, store 1247. And I just want to give you a little peek into what we did on my client today. We did a soft balayage retouch, made sure to blend in a little bit of some harsh foil lines from our previous foil. We gave her an awesome haircut and a great blow dry. So come with me and let's see how I took her from drab to fat. Alright, so for today's product choice, we're going to be using Redken's Freehand Lightener. Now this is Redken's clay-based lightener. It's really good for open air processes like a balayage or a hand painting. This is because it creates a cast on the outside and the product stays moist on the inside. I'm going to be using that with Redken's 40 volume Pro Oxide Developer. Now when you're mixing freehand, you want to mix it in a 40 grams of lightener to 2 ounces or 60 milliliters of Pro Oxide Developer. When mixing this, I'll show you how I mix. So I mix it in a figure 8, just makes it for a little bit easier mixing together. Using the freehand, I like to mix up one batch at a time, and we want to make sure that we're getting this on as fast as possible. This way your lightener stays at its full strength. It's recommended by Redken to remix your lightener every 15 minutes of application. Now I always like to use a whisk when I'm mixing any of my lightener. This way my brush stays extra clean and just looks more professional that way. So as you can see, I'm mixing in a figure 8. It keeps it a little bit easy. This product, if you've worked with freehand before, it's a little tough to mix. It takes a little while to get that consistency right, but if you're mixing in that figure 8, it's a little bit easier. So you'll notice I'm taking a diagonal back subsection. This allows for more points of light around her face. We're gonna, as we said earlier, we're gonna go through and kind of break up that harsh line from her previous grown out highlights. You'll notice a very clean brush helps with really precise placement when you're balayaging. I'm going to go in and I'm not going to go straight up to the root. I'm going to go ahead and bring it in kind of in the beginning of zone 2. This way I can feather up and it'll be a little bit of a softer placement closer to a root. With freehand and any clay lighteners, you want to lay it on thick enough to where you're not going to see the hair through it. This way that cast is able to create and will keep the center moist. It's kind of like icing on a cake. You don't want to see the cake on the inside. Now you'll notice I'll kind of elevate her, pull down her little baby hairs because we don't want to lighten them, and then I'll be able to get another point of lightness right around her face. And we'll leave her ends out because like we said earlier, this is a balayage retouch and we don't need to lighten those ends any more than they already are. And I'm using film to separate my sections. So we did a diagonal back before, and now I'm going to go from the top of my diagonal back and create a horizontal line. This will add a little bit more interior lightness as well. Since we ended with a horizontal section, we're going to go back and take a nice diagonal back again. Keeping that brightness around the face, we'll have 2 very nice points of lightness. You'll notice I'm using the back of my hand. You can use a paddle for this. You can work out of the side of your bowl. My preference is the back of my hand. It keeps it nice and close to where I'm working so the tension stays tight. This is always a tough spot for some people when they pull their hair up. They see it really dark right by their ears. If you pull your subsection back and kind of surface paint around the face, this will give some nice brightness around there as well. If it's wider than a peace sign, I break it down into two subsections. As you can see, I went through and did the top right side, and now I'm going to go through and do the top left side. You'll notice that what we like to call the money piece, I'll show you how I achieved that as well. And now I did go ahead and switch my brush. It was getting a little bit too gunked up for me. I like to keep a really nice clean brush throughout this process. Make sure to paint right in the front there, and you'll notice that I'll kind of mimic the same thing that I did on the top right, on the top left. This way, when she does part her hair down the center, it looks nice and symmetrical. And then I like to walk my section up, keeping the tension there, and back off her face. Now my client, like we said earlier in our consultation, she likes to wear her hair up a lot. So I'll go ahead and paint right up to her hairline in the front there. This will add really nice brightness around her face when she pulls her hair back. But the color will still be soft and diffused because it's painted on. And then I'll make sure to walk the section back down, keeping that tension the same. This way all of our painting remains on the surface. And then again, we're retouching, so we don't need to lighten the ends that are already lightened. A little trick for this is I like to lay the piece on my comb. This way it doesn't lay right onto her skin. Alright, and so you'll notice that we're going ahead and we're going to blend these old highlight lines in. And we're keeping the diagonal back subsections. Again, that keeps the brightness around the face. So we'll go in and kind of paint right where those highlights were. Went through the consultation. My client here, Melissa, likes to wear her hair up often. So what I like to do when I have some balayage, my balayage clients, is I'll go in and I'll pull the hairline up. Now I kind of like to pull all those little baby hairs down. Kind of gives it a little bit more of a natural look. And I'll kind of will charge the back of my hand. And then I switch brushes when I come in here and I grab my Firmar Power Painter. Covers a little bit more surface area. And I like to go in and paint the hairline, keeping that tension nice and tight. This way, when she pulls her hair up, she'll have, just like in those front, those money pieces. Don't forget about the bottom. For those guests that wear their hair up, the underneath, you want a nice money piece down there as well. And you'll notice I'm only painting the way that the hair is going rather than going back and forth. This keeps those baby hairs going in the right direction. And then just like we did in the front hairline, we're going to walk this section down. And when we work back here, I like to lay a foil down so that lightener's not sitting right on her neck. This one we're actually going to work on the top section, top surface of it. And again, we're going to split it in half so that we have more control over our subsections. I'm going to go back in with my regular Firmar brush. And just surface paint the top of this. Alright, so now we're going to get ready to cut my client's hair here. So my client likes to wear her hair either parted in the center or on either side. So I'm going to go ahead and part her in the center. This way when we do the haircut, everything's nice and even, and either way she flips her hair, it will work. So I went ahead and started at the front hairline and worked my way to the top of the head, crown. And then I'm going to go from the high point of the head down to right behind the ear, and we'll section off the front there. Now, as we went over in the beginning, my client has naturally curly hair. She does like to wear it straight pretty often, so we're going to go ahead and lighten it up with some longer layers, keeping the length. This way we can lighten up her ends here. I am going to keep the layers above the occipital bone in the back, being that she does have a little bit of, on the finer side, this way we keep her ends nice and full. So I'll show you in the layering section that I'm going to keep them above that bone so that we can make sure her ends have friends, so I like to say. Section out off the front of the hair, and I'm going to work in one section in the back. I'm going to take about 2-inch subsections. Like I said, she is on the finer side, so you want to make sure that you're working in sections small enough so that you're able to handle them and you can also see your guide. So we're going to go ahead and trim her up, I think probably about 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch off, make sure she has nice clean ends, and then we'll go through them a layer. A little trick to make sure that you keep your fingers horizontal. If you hold your comb with your thumb, you can make sure that your finger position is correct. We tend to flip towards us, and that's going to create that flip at the bottom because you're elevating. And as we cut the perimeter, we'll add the elevation in with our layers later. And you'll notice I'm kind of getting down so that I'm on eye level. You want to make sure that you can see what you're doing. And now we're just going to continue that perimeter all the way around to the front. What I like to do is find her natural fall here. So when you rock your comb back and forth, you can see where her fringe area would exist. You're gonna go right back, it's about an inch or so right back to the hairline, and I'll take two really small sections, kind of subsections, and this is how we're going to start her face front. Now we'll keep it on the long side because, like I said, she does have her curly hair, so we don't want any pieces to really jump up too short. And then we'll come in and we'll take about an inch subsection and work our way back. And we'll cut on an angle. Alright, so I'm going to take about a 1-inch mohawk type section, utilizing the start of our angle here, and that's going to give us our guide for our layers. I'm going to turn so you guys can see that I'm going to over direct, and that allows us to keep the length in the back. So now we have our guide. Start with our first vertical section right in the front here, and I'll pull it up, and you'll notice that my finger position is going to be horizontal to the section. And then you have your guide, horizontal section that we took just a minute ago. And then we'll take a little piece of that front section, add it to our next vertical section, and then I like to use my mirror or the camera and make sure that my finger position remains the same. Alright, so now we're going to go in and do a nice voluminous blowout. I'm using a little bit of Redken's Align, number 12. So it has a little bit of a hold factor. As I mentioned earlier, she is pretty naturally curly. This way it'll hold through any humidity or anything like that. So I'll go ahead and put a little bit of that in there. I focus mainly on the ends. I don't want her to be greasy tomorrow. I like to make sure that my clients have a solid few days with their blowouts before they have to wash it again. So when I get to the front of a blow dry, I like to blow dry all of the hair forward, regardless of where their part is. This way it gives it a little bit of oomph right in the front there. And I like to spin my brush at the end. You'll notice it allows for a little bit of a curl. This way it cools, when the hair cools down, it'll hold that curl a little bit longer. With this section too, I like to pull the section forward, over directing it so that the hair back here is so much further to travel, so we get a little bit more lift at the root there. Doing so for both the sides. Another trick I like to do when I'm blow drying is let your brush sit and hit it with the cold shot button. Just cool it down so that the hair stays in that. It gives you a little bit of extra oomph in that last area. You see how much body that creates. That Ulta Beauty has welcomed our pro team. We have a Wanza event this month. Absolutely very excited for this. I'm going to use their healing oil, one of my top 10 favorite products. What I like to do with serums is I like to rub it on both sides of my hands. This way it kind of diffuses the product and I don't have a clump right in the middle and go right in. I also like to start underneath and work from the bottom up. Came out really nice. Alright, as you can see, we went through and we lightened up around Melissa's face here. We also diffused a lot of the harsh lines from when she had previous foils. Blended that line of demarcation through there. We also gave her that nice money piece right in the front. Went through and lightened her up with some long layers. As you can see, we angled her right around her face just to give her a little bit of vavoom right in the front there. The angles and layers will also help when she wears her hair curly. Alrighty. Thanks for tuning in.